Hello everyone, I'm Ben Johnson and this is the Perpetual Chess Podcast. On Perpetual Chess, I have weekly conversations with chess players, personalities, authors, and adult improvers about their lives, their careers, and about chess improvement. Perpetual Chess is brought to you through the generosity of its Patreon and PayPal supporters. For more information, go to perpetualchesspod.com. Hello everyone and welcome back to Perpetual Chess. We have the OG guest of Perpetual Chess joining us, the number one guest, the first guest joining us again. He is the Pro Chess League Commissioner, the US Chess School founder, former YouTube video maker, and now back on the show. I am Greg Shahade. How are you, sir?
I'm really good. Hey, what's up, everyone? I noticed you forgot to mention that I beat Lawrence Trent twice in that intro.
Yes, I forgot to mention your biggest achievement at all. There's online and offline people. Online people very familiar with these grudge matches with public gambling that have taken place. For offline people, you can check them out on YouTube. But being that Greg mentioned them, we know that he must have won.
That is correct. No, I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to ruin it.
Don't ruin the surprise. Okay.
So you should watch. Who knows who wins? You know.
So if you were to, I can't tell with the discourse between you guys how much of it is serious and how much of it is just like for the clicks. You know, how much you guys just don't get along. If you were to run into Lawrence Trent on your way to your local Wawa, what would the interaction be like? What do you think, Greg?
It'd probably be fisticuffs, you know.
No, I don't know, man.
They would have to separate us for sure.
That would be an interesting matchup. I mean, you're obviously big on the CrossFit as we talked about before, but Lawrence is into the chess boxing, so might have to make that happen. But all right, let's get to the broader scale chess. So Greg, I thought that we would start off today with, we've had some sort of big news items and controversies lately for those who follow sort of the big tournaments, but also online chess. So I thought that we would start with one that people were talking a lot about. Alireza Firouzja, this young, incredible talent, recently, he's from Iran, but recently announced that he will no longer be playing for Iran. He's been living in France. It's not entirely clear yet what country he will represent, but he did an amazing showing in Moscow at the World Rapid and Blitz, and he had a game against Magnus Carlsen. A lot of you listening, I'm sure, saw what happened, but basically there was some controversy involving the rules of speed chess, where he had more material when he flagged, and Magnus only had a bishop, but there was a way to construct checkmate if Ali played the worst moves in the history of mankind. If he suddenly decided he wanted to lose, he could lose. So the game was declared a loss rather than a tie for no checkmating material. And then he was also complaining that Magnus was talking and disturbing him when he was very low on time. He may have just been upset by the whole thing. But anyway, Greg, what was your take on this whole hubbubaloo?
Well, first, it made me think of a potential rule change that I think would make more sense in these situations. And that is, like, if a mate can be constructed without you having to under-promote your pawns, you know, because I feel like these under-promotions are where it becomes ridiculous. If you just eliminate that as a possibility when you start to think about legal checkmates, I feel like then all of a sudden it's at least more reasonable. So that's one thing I would change to the laws of whatever FIDE rules. That way the game would have been a draw, I think. I assume.
Yeah, it would have.
Other than that, like, there's actually not that much that's controversial about it, except for the fact that it was so shocking, you know, like Firouzja, you know, first he flags and he's just annoyed about flagging because, like, he knocked over his king, went to pick it up. How did he flag? How did he take 3 minutes to go like king g4 or something? Or 3 seconds. I don't even, like, it didn't look like he was going that slow, but somehow he was.
Yeah, I was watching it live and it was kind of, I mean, it was riveting for the most part, but yeah, the very last seconds, it's that classic feeling you're watching, and it's not like I had a big rooting interest, but I just didn't want to see someone flag. So I didn't want it to end, for one thing. So you're sitting there watching going, just move. But yeah, he was a little slow at the end, although definitely that's not an overall problem of his game.
And it's an increment time control too, right?
Yeah, I think it was a 1 second increment.
Oh, one. I wasn't following that closely, but in those increment time controls, you just make a bunch of moves, build up some time on the clock. Although in this position, he had in order to win, he actually had to play accurately, so it made sense to like think more. And also, I'm sure he thought, well, even if I flag, it's a draw. So, he's not. He didn't ever think he was at risk of losing. But so like, what's funny is then like he in his mind he flags and he thinks he's drawn, right? And then they're just chatting. I think like he doesn't. It dawns on him like a little later that they're telling him he actually lost, because at some point he makes this face like what? Like
right.
His face just kind of blows up, and then he resorts to the whole Magnus was talking to me thing. And I like when the arbiter says something like, "Why didn't you stop the clock and get an arbiter?" And it's like that rule I find is completely absurd. Like in a blitz game. You're terrified to stop the clock with like 4 seconds left. You stop the clock, you do it wrong, you lose on time. Like nobody knows how to stop a clock, and nobody knows what the penalty will be if you stop the clock and the arbiter feels like it wasn't warranted. Like the arbiter should be there and be like on top of stuff like that. So I don't think the arbiter should have told him he should stop the clock in that case.
Yeah, I agree with you. It feels very
board one, right? Like,
yeah.
Pay attention to the game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it feels like a violation to stop the clock at all times. I mean, it feels like even restarting the clock, even if nothing changed, it's just like it disrupts the flow of the game so much. And like if you only have 2 or 3 seconds, are they really going to time it just right?
Yeah.
So
and I mean, the only time I think it's okay to stop the clock is, let's say you make a move, like you move your pawn to f5 or something, and then you accidentally knock over your rook for like half a second. And let's say both players have 15 minutes. Then I think it makes sense to stop the clock and kind of like get an arbiter. And do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah. That makes sense. And by the way, just
what was he doing? What was he doing in that game? The Nakamura. What was it? Zhigalko-Nakamura, right?
Zhigalko-Nakamura. Oh, I don't remember. No, I guess I didn't know what you were referring to.
Inside joke.
Okay. Well, okay. Before we clarify that,
right.
I just want to mention it's actually 3 minutes with 2 second increment. Just to be clear.
Oh, so you can really build up.
Yeah, but anyway, okay. So Zhigalko-Nakamura.
So you didn't watch this video?
No.
Wow. So basically, Hikaru made a move, and then like while he hit his clock, moved his hand back.
Yeah, okay.
His lap,
now I know what you're talking about.
And then knocked over a rook for like a
I forgot the guy's name. Yeah, so many people were up in arms on Twitter. How could I miss it?
What was he hoping to achieve by this?
Yeah.
This did he want Nakamura to get like a second consecutive move or something? Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you want to be immediately forfeited?
Yeah. So for listeners, this one's kind of, I think, tough to explain. But Greg, could you flesh it out a little for anyone who didn't see the video?
Sure. Hikaru played the move f5 with black. Then he makes a move, or he hits the clock, and then accidentally like brushes against his rook, knocks it down for like a millisecond, picks it back up. Both players have like 15 minutes left. The game's just started, and then Zhigalko stops the clock and asks for an arbiter and kind of tells them what happened. And I don't know what he's asking for or what he wants from this. Like it was a clearly not intentional, just random drop of a piece for.
Yeah, I guess it was for adjusting the piece on his time. But it was like
can he
totally
do?
Innocuous thing. The piece fell over, and Zhigalko thought about it for like 30 seconds before he did it.
Yes, it was a great psychological ploy. You gain 30 seconds on the clock.
Yeah, so a lot of stuff like that recently. So I'm glad we got your opinion on that. And I actually love the idea about under promotion because Chess24 had a nice write-up. I think it was from a tournament director. Apologies that I don't recall his name, but I'll link to it. Where he talked about, he just broke down the rule and said, okay, this is not a perfect rule, but there are no perfect rules. The one that currently exists about if a checkmate can be constructed, then no matter how ridiculous the checkmate is, if a sequence of moves that like could possibly occur where the one side can get checkmated, then it's not declared a draw, it's declared a loss. But I think that this is definitely an improvement to do it based on not using under promotion, because so many of the cases, the most extreme cases, but it is important. The most important thing is to have, I think, limit like judgment calls as much as possible. So,
sure.
So I like that your rule still enables that to happen.
Yeah.
You're good with these rules, man.
Well, I feel like it would just be more logical. Like more logical results would occur.
Yeah. Okay, and then we have our other online blitz, I guess you could call it, controversy or etiquette question. Greg knows where this is going. So This is, again, those of you listening who are extremely offline, more power to you. Congratulations to you guys. First of all, you're probably, reading books and like spending time with other humans and stuff. And, I commend you on that. But meanwhile, the chess internet has gone crazy over this Kamsky Chess 24 video. So Gata Kamsky, I've been on the show. I had great interactions with him. I loved his book. Legend of the game, as we'll get to.
Huge legend.
So he's playing in the Chess 24 Blitz Banter Cup. Do you remember the name of the gentleman he was playing, Greg?
Yeah, Cristobal Hernandez.
Okay, so he's playing...
Oh, sorry. Cristobal Henriquez, I think.
Yeah. So they're playing, and they have a time scramble, very epic time scramble. This game, there's no increment whatsoever. So I believe it is 3-0, very fast time control. And Kamsky gets flagged in a game where it was rook and pawn against rook, and he was down a pawn, but it was a drawn position though. He gets the pawn, but he only has like a second left, and then he flags with rook against rook. So that kind of set him off. And then about 6-7 minutes later, he basically rage quit in the middle of the match. And what was his quote, Greg?
What's funny? I forget the third word. It was like F-bomb legend. What was the other word?
Famous. I'm a famous effing legend.
An FFL or F.
Yeah.
All right.
So this just went viral. I mean, he said some other things too. So, Greg, we're trying not to curse here anymore.
Did I say the word?
I believe you did.
Really? I said it under my breath. Very
okay.
Quietly.
There are children listening.
Turn it down, everybody.
Especially with your show, the esteemed...
Why aren't we cursing?
Founder of the U.S. Chess School. We are family friendly podcast.
Yeah, but you do talk about like the Scandinavian defense in the show sometimes, right?
That's true. Quite vulgar.
That's a lot worse than cursing.
All right. So anyway, this was another sort of controversy about the etiquette of, the broader question. And again, we'll link to this for anyone who didn't see it. But the broader question is, what is the general etiquette of when you can flag someone and when you can't in dead drawn positions, like rook against rook?
I thought your question was going to be, when should you be able to declare yourself a famous effing legend?
Well, if that's the question, then Kamsky qualifies. Let's be clear. I mean, he really is. His accomplishments are absolutely incredible. So, it might not be the best bedside manner for him to be the one to say it, but he's not wrong. But what about the rules, Greg? Or the etiquette, rather?
I'd gladly flag him in a competition like this. In like a friendly game at the park, we're just hanging out. I'd give him a draw.
Yeah.
But no, I think there's no rules. And online, you can do whatever. Well, you can kind of do whatever you want. And I think it's more of like it's mostly chess, but it's like some video game elements to it also.
Yeah.
When there's no increment.
Yeah, I basically agree with you. I mean, certainly there are situations where it should be frowned upon. I don't know if there can be rules in place, like if you both have 45 seconds and rook and king against rook and king. But this was not even a gray area, in my opinion. I mean, he didn't really have time to offer a draw.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you don't have time to even react. By the time you press draw, the guy's flag is time is up sometimes.
Now, okay, maybe it was a theoretical draw even before Kamsky got the pawn. And then it's already, I mean, you have a pawn, you have an extra pawn. Like, you don't have to give someone a draw when you have an extra pawn. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even have to think about it. This, clearly, the flagging was completely justified in every imaginable way. But also Kamsky's reaction was super justified because it was awesome.
It was great. Yeah. I mean, so, Jen, your sister was on Twitter saying the chess world needs more of this. I don't know. I mean, it's entertaining and, and it's supposed to be emotional. You're supposed to want to win.
Yeah.
So totally. I have no idea, but it's entirely possible that Grandmaster Kamsky would do things slightly differently if it were to happen again, but it's not like totally beyond the pale. He doesn't, he forfeits the match and life goes on.
I love that he said I'm a famous effing legend.
It's a good
That's
quote.
what he decided to think.
And shouts to Chess24. They've already got merchandise on sale. They've already got T-shirts and coffee mugs that say that. So that was controversy number 2. And yeah, it just shows with Blitz, especially without increment, but even with the low increment, like the World Blitz Championship, there's going to be gray areas. And then we get to the actually more serious question, although quite slightly less newsy, because this is a one that's been unfolding over a span of months. But we've got the FIDE candidates World Championship tournament coming up in March in Ekaterinburg, Russia, and March 15th to April 5th. We now know who the contenders will be. Those of you who heard my interview with Jan Gustafsson last week heard us talking about it. It wasn't set in stone yet, but now it is. Fabiano Caruana, Timur Rajabov, Ding Liren, Wang Hao, Alexander Grischuk, Ian Nepomniachtchi, Anish Giri, and Kirill Alekseenko, which brings us to the mild controversy about this idea of having a wild card selection. So first off, Greg, do you mind, just for anyone who isn't familiar, explaining how the wild card works, or I can hop in if you want?
Oh, sure. I mean, the organizers just pick somebody, but they have to be like above 2,700 or something. Is that correct?
Yeah, they do set some thresholds. And to be clear, Alekseenko is the wild card, and he's number 37 in the world. These other guys are all in the top 10. So
all of them? No.
Yeah. I mean, all of them.
Oh.
Yeah. Wait, no, not Wang Hao. Good point.
Rajabov can't be top 10.
He is 10 as of when I wrote this outline, but not Wang Hao. But anyway, I mean, they're all like, it's not a huge upset. Wang Hao, obviously, that one was a bit of a surprise, but he won. He qualified in very uncontroversial fashion. It was whoever wins the FIDE Grande Swiss, as they're now calling Isle of Man. He won that tournament, which the winner of that tournament gets a spot in the candidate. So no one's arguing with that one, but there's this tradition of having a wild card entry, which basically the idea is that it entices sponsors because they can kind of put their thumb on the scale a little bit in terms of who gets in. So Maxime Vachier-Lagrave seemed like the most obvious, best player left out. He just missed qualifying naturally. And then, so he wrote an open letter, or his manager wrote an open letter saying he'd be happy to play Alekseenko for a match. Just today, as we're recording, an interview came out with Peter Doggers of chess.com and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, where he was saying he hates the wild card system. What's your take, Greg?
Obviously I don't like the wild card. Anyone who likes the wild card is nobody likes it, really. I don't think. But I also think, this 2,700 number, it needs to be raised a bit. Like, this guy, Alekseenko, great player. One day in the future, he may qualify for the candidates on his own. Who knows? But he just doesn't deserve to be there in any sense of the word. Everyone knows that he doesn't deserve it. He has no business being in this tournament. Maybe a good way would be like, hey, you can pick somebody in the top 10 who didn't qualify. Or something like that. So somebody like MVL or some other like super legend who didn't qualify. Normally, they have the right to invite them if they want. But I don't like reaching all the way down to 37th. That's a bit, or maybe even top 20. Like if you look at the people in the top 20, there's no one on that list I think who would be like, whoa, why are you inviting this guy? But Alekseenko is kind of in that category because he just hasn't accomplished enough yet. He's just recently become 2,700. Super strong, super talented, but he shouldn't be in the candidates. Although one good news about having a guy like him in the candidates is when there's somebody like a little bit weaker, it creates like these decisive games that happen more frequently, which result in like more fighting chess, I feel like. Yeah. I don't know, like you see these tournaments when there's like Vikanzi or where there's like a bunch of lower rated players and just people have to win certain games, and it creates like this kind of these imbalances somehow.
Yeah. I get your broader point. I'm not like I think, of course, in a perfect world, I would not want there to be this wild card thing. One thing just to clarify is Alekseenko, he did do quite well in the knockout tournament, the World Cup, the FIDE World Cup. So that's sort of, with whatever guidelines they have in place, that's like why he was at the top of the list, because he's not just like, if they just went to like the next best Russian, which, you know, since the tournament's in Russia, presumably the sponsors want as many Russians as possible.
Sure.
If they just went to like the next best Russian, it would have been a top 20 player, someone like Vichigov.
Vichigov's top 20 these days?
Yeah, he's
19.
But so it would have been someone a little bit higher, but they did try to have, I mean, it wasn't just totally random. Like they tried to do it based on performance, because Alekseenko, despite being lower rated, narrowly missed at the FIDE World Cup.
Where did he get in the World Cup?
I think he finished third or fourth. I mean, he made the semifinals.
Sorry,
the final four.
Like so uneducated. Did he really?
Yeah.
It wasn't the final 8. Like, didn't MVL play against Yu Yang Yi in the third place match?
Let me double check my facts.
Whereas Ding Liren played Rajabov in the final, I thought. So that would mean Alekseenko couldn't have been in the final.
Okay, my mistake, I guess. But it was based on that tournament that, I mean, I should have these facts down, but it was, I mean, there was a formula basically. That he didn't, that made him the best Russian candidate.
They already got 2 players.
Yeah, that's what MVL was saying in the interview.
I don't know. It's just.
But the other thing, what I want to get to the bottom of, that it might be known, it might not, is, are they giving money? Are they adding to the prize fund in order to get an additional Russian player, or is it just like, hey, we'll do you a favor since you put the money up and get an extra Russian? Like, is it explicit? You know,
it's probably the latter. If you sponsor it, you get to choose one wild card. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I would think so. So in that case, like, I mean, it's just less money in your pocket. So I get that MVO is complaining, but until there's others, and he said in the interview, chess is on a good trajectory overall. There's good sponsorship, but the bottom line is, it's just less money if they don't do it this way. So I don't know. I don't think it's that cut and dried.
But they can also have more regulations on what people you can invite, you know. I still don't think I don't think Alekseenko's done enough in his career to like get gifted a wild card here. But we'll see what happens. I mean, probably, you know, there's still a good chance he won't finish last. He's a good enough player to do pretty well. You know, another thing about the candidates that, this is going to be super insulting, what I'm about to say.
All right.
I noticed Giri, he qualified by rating, and it's like, I feel like he never does well at anything. Like, I'm sorry, like, how come his rating's so high? Am I imagining it? Like, I know he's super funny, and obviously he's really, really strong, but like, he's that high rated?
I think he just doesn't lose very often. I mean,
it's just like, he just seems like he has no chance to win a tournament like this based on like how he does. Yet he qualifies without even having to do anything. I don't know. It's just like surprising to me.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really agree with that assessment, I have to say.
Which assessment? The assessment that he's like doesn't have a chance?
Yeah. I mean, just like okay, him not playing, him backing out of the Grand Swiss, that he can't. MVL was critical of again in this interview. Other people have been. Grischuk was critical of it. That I can understand people complaining about, basically protecting his rating in order to make sure that he got the one slot that was allotted based on rating. But other than that, I mean, he's earned every rating point just like everyone else.
I'm not saying he hasn't. It's just really surprising to me that he's because like MVL like wins things. He beats Carlsen in matches like every now. I mean, I feel like he just has like a much more like storied career somehow. Whereas here he just kind of like floats around in like 4th place in every tournament or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, I think his variance is lower.
Maybe it's just like there's something feels wrong about that. Because this tournament, you have to get first, and you know he's probably not going to get first. Like,
okay, but I mean, he qualified. I mean,
because I just feel like there's something about, I don't know. I just feel like somebody like he shouldn't be automatically qualifying. Like there should be some difference to how they determine it. And also, I'm just really surprised he's that high rated. That's all.
Okay. I mean, he's been like number 3 in the world at times.
No,
so.
I know, but like I feel like he never wins a tournament.
No, that part's true. But I mean, it's just like,
it's like surprising.
It's like you're arguing what should be instead of what is. And, the scoreboard don't lie. So.
No, I know. I just like, I don't know. Surprising to me.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, yeah,
I wish MVL with him because I feel like he's a great, exciting. He would make it more interesting, like for sure.
It's true.
Giri will make it interesting because of his tweets. Like, he has really good tweets.
No, he has a chance to win. I mean, whatever.
Everyone has a chance, of course. But I wouldn't put him in the top 3 for sure. Not like somebody like Nippo should have a much higher chance. I feel like. Just because of his like kind of variance, like he wins a lot.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you could be right, but it's just one tournament. All right, so a lot going on in the chess world, but obviously we're all looking forward to the candidates, seeing who will get to play Magnus, even though Magnus is looking pretty tough right now. But Greg, I mean, of course, the main reason we have you on right now and that we may, in fact, release this episode a teeny bit early is the Pro Chess League.
Ooh,
the commissioner himself. So big changes. Ratings cap eliminated. League size retracted to 24 teams. No more relegation. And it's basically done based on country now. So what's the story behind these major changes to the Pro Chess League, Greg?
The story why they were made?
Sure.
Well, they weren't. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. They weren't my call. I was kind of against them at first because I really liked how things were going. But now that I've seen some of the results and seen some of the work teams have put in to form like these super strong teams, I actually think it's going to be really exciting. A team like St. Louis, the lineup has just come out, like who they're playing in the first match. And their team of 4 is Fabiano, Leinier Dominguez, Wesley So, and then Lequang Liam. So that's 4 players above 2,700. I think their average rating is like 2,760. And, a team like that's going to be competing against the national team of China and like India and like these really powerful teams. And so like suddenly things are getting really serious. The teams that want to win have to offer like real money to like players. So it's going to help players professionally, the top players, because there's real incentive to get those top players in your team. Like the Chess Bras team is ridiculous strong. Like they have Grischuk, Firouzja. They also got guys like Ivan Saric. Oh, Giri's on their team also. So like they're going to be super, super strong. New York has the New York Marshals, like named after the Marshall Chess Club. They got Hikaru-Nakamura. And in fact, they're going to play Hikaru. St. Louis went after him. They wanted Hikaru on their team, but Hikaru he's not the kind of guy who wants to just join like the top team with all the best players. He wants to take them down. So he took a role with a different team, and he's going to be playing against St. Louis in week 1. It's going to be Hikaru, Sam Sevian, and 2 other 2,600 players playing against those 4, famous legends that I mentioned. So it's going to be like these matches of just like huge heavyweights facing off. And then, we're going to have a 7-week regular season. You're going to have like a really exciting playoffs. And these teams are just going to be so strong. And I think it's going to be really good. And even the teams that like are not like super, like a team like Turkey, you wouldn't expect them to be like some chess powerhouse, but their average rating's above 2,600 in the first match. That's legit. 4 players all above 26. I think everyone on the team in the first week is above 2,600 for them. So that's like also really strong.
So yeah, it should be interesting. And what's the starting date, Greg?
Starts on the 6th.
Okay.
Monday. And each week, generally, there will be matches on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We have 3 divisions of 8 teams. And yeah, that's basically the format.
Okay, so yeah, we'll try to get this out in time for Mondays, but if you guys catch this later, just start watching. It should be entertaining. But Greg, I got to get a little more detail on these big changes, because the league was pretty popular as it was, at least from where I'm sitting. It seemed that way. So you mentioned this was maybe not your not your vision at first, but what was the what was the driving consideration behind it? What was, I mean, obviously one could conjecture, but I'd just like to hear it from you.
I think future growth, like it means that the growth potential is kind of unlimited. It does take away like the kind of some of like the community aspect and the smaller teams having a chance to compete, but the growth at the top, like, and it being like a real kind of feeling like a world championship where there's no limits. You can just put whoever you want in there. I think that's what people kind of want to see in like a world championship event.
Okay, so I know chess.com is into the analytics, and I know people have told me, like, I mean, the stronger the player, the more people watch, basically.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. Yeah, so I understand. I mean, it's it's a business, and certainly this will be very
exciting.
Interesting. Yeah.
I mean, tune in the first Monday, January 6th. Tune in, because this match with Nakamura facing off against St. Louis in a grudge match. Like, he would love to beat St. Louis. That would be like...
Okay, but they're a little outmatched, Greg.
Yeah, but Hikaru, he could play well. He's a good rapid player.
This is true.
So and Sam Sevian's not... Like, they're not that much lower rated than them. On average rating, they're like 90 points lower rated. So it's doable.
So what's the format of each match?
4 against 4, 10 plus 2 time control, and all 4 players... Like, each player on each team plays everyone else on the other team. So Hikaru will play all 4 of those guys.
Okay. Yeah, and it's manageable size teams. I mean, it should be entertaining. I like that it's 10-minute. I really enjoyed watching the FIDE World Rapid and Blitz, like these fast time controls. There's just it's nice when people make blunders sometimes.
Yeah. It is when you see them get to be human, but the thing is not just about the blunders they make. They also play extremely well at 10-2. Like, they play exceptionally well. Like the top players in the world, like Grandmaster level easily.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing sometimes they're playing like hugely instructive games.
No, totally, all the time.
So we have different divisions, and then what's going to eventually happen with playoffs and all that stuff?
Well, there's 3 divisions of 8 teams, and basically each division you just play round robin against everyone in your division. 4 teams from each division make it, but I realized that the divisions may be a little imbalanced. So one thing we decided to do was the 5th place team that has the best performance rating will also make the playoffs. So if you get kind of like stuck in that really strong division and you feel like you kind of like get shafted, you still have a chance to make it just by having a really good performance rating.
Okay.
So that way it kind of like gives us some leeway in terms of forming the divisions and not worry, because they're based kind of on geography. But this way, the strongest division will likely get a 5th playoff team. And then the 3 division winners will get a bye in the first round of the playoffs.
Okay. And how long is the season, and when will the playoffs be?
The playoffs start at the beginning of March, and they end for the candidates. Oh, sorry. The final 4 will happen sometime in May. And there's still an announcement to come for that. I can't say much about it, but it's going to be exciting.
Can you say if it's going to be another live?
I can't say.
Man, I can't say. I'm going to call off this interview if I can't get...
I'm so sorry, but like, I'm not supposed to say anything.
Okay. But I don't know. I guess we'll leave it at that. Anything else we need to know other than tune in, support the Pro Chess League? Anything else? I mean, any other teams to watch out for, Greg? Or
well, you can keep signing players throughout the season. So like some teams at any point they can just start signing new players. I think China, India, like I think Armenia is actually still going to be really strong. They're not rating wise, they're not like super high, but I know these guys, they're like super strong blitz players on chess.com. Like Martirosyan and Sargsyan. And they're like 2,600 FIDE. And I don't know. I just have a good feeling about that team again. I think they're going to surprise people because I think were really worried when we got rid of the rating cap that it would destroy their team. But I don't think that's the case. I think they're going to make the playoffs still and have a chance to do well in the playoffs. Poland's also a dangerous team with Duda and other 2,700, 2,600 players.
Yeah, seem to have the close-knit chess community in Poland, and they do have strong players. I know that Sako, I don't know how to say his name, but Sako had a strong
sure.
was on the top boards for a while in the World Blitz Championship. So with Armenia, you mentioned they're not at the top yet. The most notable Armenian chess player, Levan Aronian, is he involved in the league right now?
He is not yet.
Okay.
He has not yet joined the Pro Chess League in the first 3 seasons of the league, but who knows? Maybe this is the year.
Okay.
One team, I know for sure one team is specifically trying to recruit him.
Okay.
We'll see if it works.
Yeah, and then some of this, I guess, like last time I had you on, Magnus had just withdrawn from the Pro Chess League. And
well, we know why.
Yeah, it later became clear why.
Yeah.
So, there may be...
honestly, I think he is really sad to have to not... I think he loved playing, and it really was hard for him to not play.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, it seems right up his alley. He likes these experimental formats. He likes these quicker time controls, which brings us to the next topic that you were kind enough to highlight for me when we were outlining this interview. It was very generous of you to suggest that we talk about all the things that you've been right about.
Yeah.
So
go on.
We're discussing mainly different formats, and Greg's, in previous conversations on the podcast that we've had about changes that could be made in the chess world, some of them are coming to fruition. So what have you seen that you've liked in the chess world, Greg, recently?
Well, I'm going to go. First of all, I feel so useless now in terms of talking about new formats, because I feel like it's just everything that's smart people are doing. So I have nothing to add. Mostly,
hey, you got the no under promotion.
It's true,
idea.
But it used to be just everyone's a giant moron about everything, and I was. But now, these rapid tournaments, these blitz tournaments, they're taken very seriously by everyone, and people love to watch them. I mean, think about this World Rapid Blitz Championship. How exciting it was!
It's so fun,
and how many people are following it, and how much attention it gets. And then just the Grand Chess Tour Rapid and Blitz tournaments are also really popular. The one good thing about the Open Rapid and Blitz is you get guys like Firouzja. The Grand Chess Tour is a little bit closed off, to these guys who are Rapid and Blitz specialists.
Yeah, the Opens are my favorite.
Yeah, Opens are at least more open than the same 10 players every time.
So
go on.
And where are you on Fischer Random?
I think it's good that they're trying.
I mean, Chess 960. My bad.
Sure. I think it's totally good that they're trying. My gut feeling, I like it. My gut feeling is though it's still a ways away from common acceptance, and because there's still so much room in chess, especially if you speed up the time control for exciting things to happen. It's more when you only play classical chess that it can get a little bit stale. But I love that people are trying these things. The Puzzle Rush Championship that's happening is exciting. Fischer Random Championship is exciting. Everything interesting and exciting is being tried by everybody. It's just nonstop Blitz championships. With the Speed Chess Championship on Chess.com, it's just a regular fixture now. All these things that I'd been fighting for, they're just parts of chess, there's a world championship cycle which is just completely steady and normal, and it involves lots of different qualification cycles, the World Cup and the Grande Swiss. We also have a great leadership in FIDE now compared to the past, which just makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it's good to see. I mean, there's more that they could do, but I mean, definitely steps in the right direction.
Well, what do you think more they should do?
I mean, I want more faster chess. I have to admit, with the Grand Chess Tour, and so many of these invitational round robins, they kind of blend together to me at some point.
Yeah.
So I understand they have a place, but I mean, I saw some statistics about how many games Magnus plays in a typical year compared to like Kasparov in his heyday. And it's like a huge number. And in this interview with MVL, he was complaining basically just how exhausted he was. And I know that during the knockout tournament, when Svidler was announcing, he was just saying like, this isn't MVL. This, like, you know, he just had a couple bad games where he just didn't look like himself. And MVL alluded to that. I mean, they're just flying from place to place. Wesley So, I was just reading in New in Chess, talks about how with the Fischer random, he almost didn't play because he's so tired and in between events, but he basically decided since he didn't have to prepare, he'd just show up and see what happened. I mean, these guys just sound like they're like dazed and confused and jet lagged everywhere and these are like the sharpest chess minds in the world. So I think that there needs to be less quantity and more quality in the events and bigger prizes in the smaller events. And of course, my personal bias is I love these big Swisses and stuff like that and big knockouts. I'm just tired of these little invitationals.
I think the problem, I think first of all, it's a very good problem to have, that these top players are getting too many opportunities.
No, it's true.
So that's number one, a really good thing. But the problem with that is that one particular event is monumentally more important than all the others, which is the World Championship and the candidates. And so you get the situation where, like, it'd be nice to just play in everything and not feel like you're punished for it. But because this one tournament's so important, if you don't perform well enough to kind of like get into that, or if you don't perform well enough in that, it's like your whole year is ruined. So I feel like there's, you know, because you think about like tennis tours and golf tours, like there's not that one tournament that's just more important than everything else by far. Yeah. So like maybe the solution is to kind of, I don't know, find a way to get rid of that effect. Because you can't ask people not to run tournaments. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Like, they want to run chess tournaments. They have the money to do it. And the players are going to want to play because they're going to make money by playing. So it's like they have to decide whether they want to make the money or not make that money and slightly increase their chances of making the world championship, maybe. It's a hard problem to answer.
Yeah. And I noticed, like, Fabiano, he's kept a light schedule, like, you know, because he knows, and ironically, I mean, he's known he'll be in the candidates, but comparatively, it's clear where his priorities are.
Yeah, it's a good point. What about Ding? Has he been keeping a reasonable schedule too?
I feel like he was pretty busy. I think he maybe slowed down a little bit once he had his seat. Like he skipped the World Rapid and Blitz, but
and a lot of it could depend on like your personal financial situation too.
Right.
So, I don't know.
Yeah,
because it's going to be hard to stop people from running tournaments. I think the Grand Chess Tour is slightly lowering their event total next year. Am I correct on that?
I'm not
like
sure.
one or two events less, but I could be wrong.
And MVL was also saying that the schedule was a little compressed because they didn't do anything the first few months, and then there was just like floods of things. So he's saying even if it was more spread out, that would have been helpful.
It's true, but that is good for the Pro Chess League. Because we have this stretch in like February and March where for some reason that I can't really understand, they don't run anything.
Yeah.
Same for like January. There's like the Vikanzi or Tata Steel, but like there's no Grand Chess Tour. There's no World FIDE Grand Prix or whatever. So it really helps our scheduling. So thanks for that.
All right. So one more format question for you, Greg, but this one is on more of a micro level. It is from supporter of the podcast, Mark Ebersabal. Mark, thanks as always for the support. So
what's up, Mark?
Mark is asking, does Greg have any thoughts on the US OTB tournament system? How would he improve things? What can USCF organizers and players do to help?
So clarify, what do you think he means by like just like
I think he means like Swiss? US Chess Swisses, yeah.
Well, it depends if you're talking about it from my point of view or from like the average tournament player's point of view. I feel like these tournaments are really not geared towards healthy adults. I've always thought this. Children thrive, but like it's just too much chess in like crammed into like one day, you know, like it's like these 6-hour time controls and 2 games in the same day, which I just don't believe in. I think no game should, if you're going to play 2 games in a day, there should never be a time control more than 4 hours. And even that's like really stretching it. When I say 4 hours, I mean like each side gets 2 hours for the whole game or something like that. I don't know. It's so interesting how they do it in Europe and why we can't do it here. Like, why can't we have a 9-day tournament with 1 game a day, like as a normal thing?
Well, there's the profit motive here. I mean, I think that's less of a consideration in Europe.
No, I think it's also like our culture, though. Like people don't get as many rest days, like from work.
Yeah, that's true.
Which sucks. Is that like the main reason, probably?
Well, I mean, I do think, I mean, you're renting a space at a hotel and it's not clear. I mean, if it's like a big tournament, and you can't just rent it at night. So it's like,
but it's just, why is that not the same problem they have in Europe? Why don't they care?
I think that they're not really putting money into prizes. So this is conjecture, but I think that that's kind of where the money goes. Like that's their expense, you know, whereas here it's, there's more expenses because the prizes are bigger.
But they don't have to be. We could just actually, I think if we try to do the same thing as them, it wouldn't work. But I think it's like a cultural difference that Americans have.
Yeah. No, I agree that it wouldn't work. So that gets to the other half of Mark's question. What can people like listening, what can people do to help? Like, you know, at the small scale level.
I mean, I think demand faster time controls, but like most people I think don't actually want those, or like if you ask them, they're not going to want it.
Yeah. But well, I'm with you. I'm terrible at faster time controls, but the longer ones just keep me from playing. I would play the faster ones because it's like I can't like bounce from my family for 4 days, you know, like it's just not happening. So
it doesn't have to be 15 minutes, Ben. It can be like a, you know, reasonable time control.
No, I agree. Yeah.
Something like, you know, where you could like 90 minutes for the whole game or something.
Yeah.
With some increment.
Yeah.
But just something because here's what's really important to me. Like, I don't think like exercise should be a thing you don't have time for.
I agree. Yeah.
Like to me, that's not an optional thing I do every day. Like it's something I'm going to do every day. If I can't do it every day, like I don't want to take part in whatever activity is stopping me from doing it. Like, because I feel like that's just not, like you need to sleep, you need to exercise, you need to eat normally at like kind of like normal hours. And if you're running an event of any kind that's preventing you from doing that for like 4 or 5 days in a row, the event's garbage.
Okay, but I mean, the contrarian argument would be like, first of all, as you say, people don't seem to want this, and
you got kids,
you know,
like
the big tournaments seem to do quite well. I mean, you know, Goichberg figured out the business model for making chess work in the United States, and you know, there's no one remotely approaching his scale.
I mean, I'm not saying that my method would have more people, people playing. It would make me happier personally, and it would make me feel like a functional human being at a chess tournament instead of like some kind of total degenerate, you know.
So
like,
would you really play?
No, I wouldn't. At this point, I probably wouldn't. But, but like, you know, there were times where, the fact that they were so like unhealthy to play in is what pushed me away. And now I'm just like too far removed, I think.
I looked you up in ChessBase and I was reminiscing about your little classical chess comeback around 2011. You had some good results.
Yeah, I gained a lot of rating points. I'm at my peak rating because of that, you know.
So what happened? Why'd you change your mind about?
I mean,
I guess we're sort of touching
it was miserable,
on it.
You know.
Yeah.
Just, every tournament I played was generally miserable because you don't like every day. It's like you don't get to sleep at night, and it's just this race against time to get food before your next game, and then to also nap because you didn't sleep well the night before, and everyone's sick. There's like 5% of the players are sick, you know. Yeah. And like kind of coughing all the time.
Yeah, I mean, now that you mentioned, there's a supporter of the podcast who's been emailing me. I believe his name is Rob Steele. Apologies if I got this wrong. The hygiene issue is like a serious thing because I can't remember the exact circumstances. Sorry, Rob. I'm going to ask a tournament director whenever I interview a tournament director, which will hopefully be reasonably soon. But Rob was saying, like, he has a compromised immune system, and chess players are such slobs, basically, that it's a serious issue. You know, it's not like a mild nuisance. It's like it keeps him from being able to play. You know? So, and actually, I'm somewhat joking. Chess players' hygiene has gotten better, I will say, but yeah, I mean, it could always be better.
I don't want to blame just the chess players. I want to blame the conditions that they're forced to play in. Because first of all, the rooms are always like extremely not temperate. Like they're usually too cold.
Yeah.
And just people, you're stressed. You don't get to sleep. You don't get to eat. The chance of getting sick just goes way up. You know, your immune system is facing a lot of, it's facing an assault, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So,
I think faster time controls would be a big help. But I know people generally don't want it, and it's probably not going to happen. And these tournaments are basically doing okay right now in terms of a profit standpoint. But people who listen to your show, you know, especially players in their like, you know, in their like 30s to 50s who still have a job, who aren't retired, you know, it's just have kids and a family. Like it's really hard to find time to play because they make it so brutal.
Yeah.
That's my theory, at least. That's just my take. I know other people have other opinions, but I just find it miserable.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of actionable things, Mark, getting back to your question, I mean, I guess you could just try stuff on a local scale, talk to your local tournament director, see what happens. But, yeah, it's and whatever people's opinions are, like Greg said, voice them to tournament directors. I know that Continental Chess, they do send out surveys. It's not like, you know, they're interested in what people think. It's just if things are working, they're not going to change them.
Yeah, and you know, Grischuk always told me he would send these surveys and nobody would want faster time controls. No matter what, they would always not want them.
So you did talk to him about it. Interesting.
This is a long time ago, like 10 years ago, because I couldn't believe it, because I was just feeling it's so brutal.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know how it can be that people need that extra half hour at the end.
I mean, you see the arguments every time, like your blog posts or whatever, your Facebook. Yeah. I mean, people are always in there arguing.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I think the opposite side is slowly winning this argument. At least you can see it in certain areas, you know, like in the rise of rapid chess, and the rise of Blitz, and the rise of all this kind of like exciting new forms of chess. But, you know, there's one or two people who kind of like run most of the big tournaments in the country.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see it legitimized at the top level. And of course, we have a lot of international listeners too. So I'd be curious for what things are like in all your countries, people listening. So send me a note and let me know if there's a better system wherever you are.
But yeah, I'm also not the best person to ask because I'm really not an active player now. So it's like,
that's one of the common critiques whenever you suggest a format thing.
Well, I wasn't more active before, and then it made more sense because it was like right after I'd stopped playing because they were so miserable. But it's been a while now, so I feel like I don't want to rail against the tournaments too much. But I do think it's a common complaint and a common reason why people don't play. Like the chess should be fun, right?
Yeah.
Like why not? Be a little bit fun. I
mean, the long games in a vacuum, the long games are fun for me. It's just there's an opportunity cost that's too great, you know. Whereas if,
go on.
If the games are shorter, that's not necessarily the case.
Totally.
All right, Greg, you ready for some chess improvement? You're following Jan. You're following Jan Gustafsson, who I try not to ask chess improvement questions to, and then when he dispenses advice, I can't tell if he's like trolling people or not. You know, so we need some from the heart.
All right, it will be from the heart.
Okay,
I'm very excited.
Okay, and obviously, we love Jan, but
I mean, maybe.
Are you ready to fire some shots, Greg?
Well, I already told you about.
You already fired your main shot.
And did he even respond to that ever?
Off the record, he did to me, but
what off the record? Why off the record?
Basically, he wasn't interested in discussing it
because he knows he lost, and he knows he made me delete them from my phone. Like that's what, so whenever you see him online, like winning some game, just think of all the games he lost that he didn't put online.
Okay. And for listeners who don't know what we're talking about, this is like my 4th or 5th interview with Greg, and we covered it. I think we covered it in our last interview.
Real quick recap: I beat Jan in a match. We recorded it. The idea was it was going to go online, and he was like, "No, I can't put this match online because you won." So,
well, it proved to be a savvy career move on his part. Can't argue with the results. Team Magnus doing his own shows. So
yeah, imagine if they saw that
chessable course.
To me.
Everything would have been different. All right. So question from Patreon supporter Michael Kahn. Michael, thank you for the question and for the support. And he says, Greg, instead of a list of books to recommend, do you have a list of topics that so far lack a good book? And this might throw back to our very first interview. When you were going to write a book.
You know what's funny? I was thinking about something the other day. Like just yesterday. Like trying to think, what's the difference between me and like a 2200 kid that I'm teaching, like one of my chess camps, who's like unbelievably good at tactics, who's going to see them all really quickly. And like, how can we quickly pinpoint that difference? And I was trying to think of ways. Now, I know this isn't exactly a book, what I'm talking about, but what I was thinking might be a method would be to like go through a game and then just like quickly come up with candidate moves in a position. And with next to the candidate moves, though, you kind of you have to like indicate whether it's reasonable or not, or whether it's like a real candidate move you would look at or like an exception. Because, like there's some positions where, let's say the original chess position, right? What are the candidate moves? E4, D4, knight F3, C4. Those are like your 4 most logical ones that you would look at right away. And then you would look at moves like B3, G3, knight C3, or something like that. It's kind of like, not the most logical, but, you'd look at them just because. Does this make sense?
Yeah, I'm with you.
So then you get a normal chess position. And like somebody like me, I'll take a chess position and I'll see like maybe the position will be just one move that's clearly like the most logical move. Or maybe there'll be 3 that are all like really reasonable. And I would, think about all of them. And then, there'd be like 2 or 3 other moves that are kind of like, they're not like the most logical choices, but you'd still look at them, right? And then I feel like that's where you might start to see like where people's minds are headed differently. So like they're not just picking one move. They're kind of like judging the inherent reasonableness of moves. Because like a lot of time, like a lot of lower rated players with like less positional sense will spend a lot of time looking at a move that like a higher rated player will just dismiss because of some like positional factor. And, maybe they won't even play the move in the end. But I don't know. I just feel like there's something to this kind of like quick classifying of moves is either logical or like to the point of the position or critical,
Not
so,
sure.
That's something I was thinking about because I feel like that's how else am I going to see most quickly the difference between me and like a kid like who's like 2300, and how am I going to be like not just see it but like point it out to them so they can see it too, and they can see the clear differences and like what they're thinking about and what stronger players are thinking about. And sometimes when you just choose one move each, they might just keep choosing moves that are decent, but occasionally they'll play a move that like a grandmaster would never play in a million years. Usually because of some positional understanding reason.
And lack of positional understanding?
Yeah, exactly. And the key would be like how to like, pinpoint those moments as quickly as possible and kind of get them to learn from those moments.
Okay.
And sometimes it won't even be a move they play. It'll be just be a move they consider. And they need to know that it's okay to consider that move, but the drawbacks are severe, and there was a reason I was thinking about this, but I can't quite remember why. And I don't know how you'd make a book that looks exactly like that, but it's more about like choosing candidate moves and kind of like having to understand when they're reasonable candidate moves or like exceptional candidate moves that are like coming at a big risk, and being able to like verbalize that and kind of, I don't know. That's one idea I was having.
Okay. Any other topics that lack a good book?
Yeah, chess opening books that are very short.
Those have existed.
But they're very rare. Any book in the Neidorf's like 400 pages, and it's just like, I feel like it just, here's the point. If I put my entire opening repertoire against like E4 in a book, it wouldn't be more than 50 pages. Absolute guaranteed, right? Like if I just put everything I actually know.
See, this is where your lack of playing, I think, we just had IM Vigorito on, we had Jan Gustafsson. These guys, they're not, who made a double king pawn chessable course. They're not they're not making stuff up. I mean, I think they're just looking with a little more depth. With all due respect, Greg.
No, I don't think so. Because I think what happens is they're not going to remember like the sidelines that are in their books.
I mean, Vigorito did say that. He did say.
Yeah. They're not going to remember half the book. At least half. So the point is, like somebody like me, what the player actually needs is what I actually know. Not like what like the absolute truth is in some sideline you're never going to see, but like the information that somebody strong chooses to remember, because that's the information that's most important, because that's what they think is most important. Not like this complete encyclopedic knowledge of a book that I've already decided is irrelevant, because I'm not going to ever see these lines and I just don't have space in my brain for them. Yeah. Does that make sense? And I used to play tournaments. Like even when I played, I knew a lot of openings, but I still knew when something was not super important. Let me give you an example of a specific line.
Okay.
So the opening, when I played E4, C5, knight F3. Black can play the move knight F6 on move 2.
Right.
And you can choose between like E5 or knight C3, right? And both the E5 line, I think, like E5, knight C5, I honestly forget how D5. It goes. I'm sorry, yeah, E5, knight D5. I think it goes like knight C3, E6, right? And then like this weird tactical variation happens, and it's super, super, super complex. And I think if you memorize everything, it is believed to be very good for white. But even that, like, I'm not 100% sure on that. But at one point in my career, like when I tried to make my comeback, or when I started to make it, I was like, you know what? If it's winning for white, I'm just going to learn it, right? So I started to do that. And, I memorizing like 15 move lines. And it's like, you start to realize that if you make just one mistake, you're going to lose. Some of the stuff that people say is winning, you start to look at it with an engine, and you find these sidelines 3 moves earlier that are like really dangerous, and you don't quite know what to do about them. And so I caught myself like spending hours and hours and hours on this move knight F6 on move 2 in the Sicilian, which I'm basically never going to see.
Right.
And just trying to refute it by force, and by doing that, I'm also risking like disaster. So eventually, I realized like this is a total waste of time. And what I did was I just came up with a complete novelty in move 4. I was just like, I'm just going to play this. It looks fine. That's the end.
Right.
And I'll tell you the novelty. Everyone can find out about this line. Knight F6 on move 2 of the Sicilian. White goes E5. Black goes knight to D5. White plays bishop to C4. I think this is already a novelty. Black goes knight to B6 to attack the bishop, and then just play D3, defending the bishop. The engine puts it as like 0.7 for white, or 0.6 or whatever. And like, maybe black's okay, probably black's fine.
That's very good these days. I mean, it's just like
it's move 4, who the hell knows?
Right.
Sometimes when you have a space advantage, the engine kind of overrates things a bit. And this was a few years ago, engine. But I've done well in Blitz with it, and the plus side is nobody in black knows what's going on, and I didn't waste hours and hours and hours studying some sideline, right?
Giving up that beautiful bishop, though.
Yeah, no, it's a little weird. It's definitely weird, but you get like, if they take it, you take it, and then, you have this like open D file, and if they go E6, you can go like knight C3 and knight E4, and I don't know. I think it's very reasonable for white. Like white's probably going to be at least slightly better, and you're saving lots of mental energy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could write a book and write all these, try to make like 10, 20-page chapter on how to refute this line, or I could just use your time better.
Gotcha.
So that's one very clear example of how I optimize my opening repertoire for like practical purposes.
Okay. Good stuff. Yeah, and Chessable, with their courses, they've started doing these quick starter guides where instead of what would be a 400-page book, they give you the 40-page version.
Sounds great. Sounds like a good idea.
I think it's quite helpful. So,
sorry, I had another
go ahead.
confession. I have another sad confession to make.
Okay.
About it's just general opening nuggets for people. Because I feel like there is an opening. Oh God, I can't believe I'm going to say this in there. There's an opening. It is really underrated for most players.
Scandinavian?
Stop. Okay, well, my match against Lawrence Trent, right?
Uh-huh.
So first of all, I know I'm better than him at chess, right? So like if we just get a normal chess position, I'm like better than him. But, he's like this kind of like wild attacking player. If he gets the initiative, he's kind of dangerous. And so like in E4, C5, kind of like Sicilian openings, he has all these like attacking lines planned. There is one opening with black against E4, though, where they're just not, there's no way they're going to attack you. There's no way they're going to use some opening theory to crush you. And it does happen to be the Scandinavian.
Wow. Great. So switching teams.
Well, I mean, watching my match, I played the Scandinavian like exclusively. After he would beat me in the Sicilian, I would just switch to the Scandinavian. And I like to bring the queen all the way back to D8. You just avoid any trouble. Like maybe they get a slight advantage.
Of course.
But because they have to play accurately. So, I mean,
they have one more piece out than you. I know it's a solid opening, and no disrespect, but let's not act like it can't be equal.
No. Of course, objectively, white gets a slight advantage.
Okay.
What I mean is maybe they get it in the actual game. Like maybe they'll play well enough for 15 moves to get it. Like another example is I played this guy Bryan Smith in a Blitz tournament, and he's like a super opening theoretician. I'm like, I want no part of that. So I just played D5 and move 1, and I'm like equal on move 7 and like better on move 12. And it's just like the Scandinavian. And the great thing about it is you can kind of play it knowing almost nothing. Like, if you do know like all the stuff Johnny B knows, like that probably makes it a much better weapon. But you actually don't have to know much because you just develop logically and you're usually going to be okay. Like you go knight F6, you bring your bishop out, you go E6, C6. Bishop E7 castles, and at worst you're slightly worse, but you have a solid position and you're not getting checkmated. So
I don't know. There's going to be some people shaking their heads that saying it's because you're a Blitz player. Like you see all the top guys. The top guys will play it in the faster time controls, but they won't play it in classical.
It's tough. I mean, you basically play it if you're scared of somebody like crushing you in the open Sicilian.
And also like none of the people listening. I mean, Magnus, thanks for listening, but the rest of you, the rest of you aren't 2700s either. So, you could probably get away with playing it even in slow games.
I think I could totally get away with it against almost anyone. Like I think I just play it tomorrow, knowing nothing against somebody in my rating and. Have totally great chances.
Man, I smell a prop bet.
I mean, I think it's actually a decent opening. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know why I'm saying this. It's boring and miserable.
Wow, this is Chess Reddit's going to go crazy.
It's just, I don't know. It's just like, here's the reason why I think that. I hate to play against it. Like, there's nothing I want to see less than the Scandinavian because you just don't get any targets. I think that's what it is. You don't get like a clear plan. You don't know exactly where your play should be. You have like a little more space, but it's kind of like this nebulous thing, and you don't know what to do with it sometimes.
Okay, all right. We got a lot more questions to get to.
Sure.
So we got to keep it moving.
No more Scandi talk.
Michael Kahn, part 2, says, Greg, since you became an IM, who's the youngest player you've lost to in a serious game, and what was their age?
Since I've become an IM, I honestly don't remember exactly, but I can give some guesses. It might be Alex Lenderman because it was a game 30, and I know I was the first IM he beat, and he was young at the time.
So he would have been like 11 or 12?
11 or 12, yeah. But it was game 30, it wasn't like a tournament game. When I made my comeback, I don't think I lost to any kids. Like kids meaning under 14.
Right.
I'm usually good against the lower rated people. But Lenderman, I was the first IM he beat, I think. And maybe I'm forgetting some other wonder kid that beat me, but that's the first guy that pops into my head.
Okay. Yeah, sounds plausible. Yeah. All right. Next question is from the most recent supporter of the podcast, J Deep, thank you for the support. And he was following up. I did a recent book recap podcast with Todd Kennedy about Reassess Your Chess. And we were texting a little bit, Greg. It sounds like you maybe haven't read it. Have you read Reassess Your Chess?
That's a good question. I've seen the Reassess Your Chess workbook, if I'm not mistaken. And I think I've definitely looked at Reassess Your Chess.
Okay. It's a fun book. I mean, obviously, it's not really for your level, but worth checking out for teaching materials, especially positional stuff. So in the book, well, I'll read the question. He says, with all 10 imbalances in mind and analyzing the board based on that, is it practically possible? So just to clarify, Jeremy Soman, sorry.
I actually feel bad because it's what you're talking about right now. Somebody mentioned chess books that should be written. More positional puzzle books, like books with 1,000 tactics in them. There should be 1,000 positional examples. And just to give an example, like just to make people like know the type of work I do in like the U.S. chess school, I have a 6,000 puzzle database where you can search the database and like categorize them by like theme. And there's like 100 themes, 200 themes, a lot of them positional themes. So like you can search knight maneuvers. There'll be like 150 puzzles that just pop up. So you should have giant books like this released regularly. And they exist for tactics in great numbers, but not really for positional themes.
Yeah.
So that's like something that should be more, there should be more of that. Anyway, that's all. You can continue with the imbalances.
So there's 10 imbalances that Soman lists and Reassess Your Chess, and he says to always think about them. So I think JDeep is asking if it's possible to really think about 10 things each move. And here are the imbalances, just for you and anyone listening. Superior or minor piece, pawn structure, space, material, control of a key file, control of a weak square, lead and development, initiative, king safety, and statics versus dynamics.
So you're saying, is it possible to think of those?
Yeah, to like keep all those in mind.
Yes. Yes and no. So like for me, it's just automatic. Like I don't have to think, is there an open file that I'm controlling? It's just like, you just think about it without thinking, right? You don't have to think, do I have better development? It's just something that comes naturally because of years of experience. And it just, you know what I mean? You just kind of feel it. I don't have to go through some checklist. I just whenever anything changes in the position with one of those important themes, I notice it right away. So the question he's asking is whether that's like kind of unrealistic. Is that?
Yeah.
Am I getting that right?
Is it practically possible?
So what I think Soman's goal is. So first of all, I think he's teaching. His books aren't aimed towards like raw beginners, or maybe they are. But what he's trying to do, I think, I don't want to put words in his mouth, is make these decisions turn into like automatic processes. So like at first, before they become automatic, you have to like really think about them a lot. I'm not saying that like these imbalances and thinking about them is the best way to go about learning this stuff. I'm not sure that I agree with that, or it's how I would teach somebody. But it's interesting. Can you list them again? Like weak square, for example. Like that's one that lower rated players don't take as seriously as higher rated players. And I know because when I was a kid, I was like maybe 1500, and my dad was analyzing a game, and my dad's a strong player, FIDE master, and they kept talking about like, oh, this move loses such and such square, and I'm like, are you joking?
Right.
What do you mean loses a square? I'm thinking about losing pawns, knights, bishops. So I kind of like commented on how funny it was that they cared about a square, but now it's like obvious. Of course, like a weak square is like a total disaster. So. At that time, I didn't quite get it. Now I do. And I know that was one of the imbalances, right? Weak squares.
Yeah, control of a weak square.
Yeah, so now I don't even, like I don't have to think about it consciously. As soon as there's a weak square, it just like my brain lights up and it's like this obvious thing that I'm focused on. Open file, same thing, right? Material, everyone, you kind of know what the material is most of the time. Let's go through all 10 of them. What were the other ones?
I'll read them in order.
Sure.
Superior minor piece.
Okay,
construction.
Look, slowly. So superior minor piece, I feel like that's one that you just kind of like notice it. Like you just train to think, are my pieces better than my opponent's? And, if their bishop's behind a pawn chain and yours is like active, you just kind of notice that. But the way to notice it is to spend a lot of time looking at positions with, a bad bishop versus a good bishop, or a good knight against a bad bishop, and then at some point it becomes like this automatic thing that you're trained to recognize immediately.
Gotcha. Pawn structure, that's obvious.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all the same. It's just like you hone in on these things one at a time. And no, I mean, probably his book's not long enough to like give you the type of training you need to really focus on each one of these imbalances.
I mean, it is 700 pages.
Oh, that's longer than I realized. Okay. But like, it takes a lot of time to like master something, and to like weak squares. I didn't think of them when I was 2200. I don't think I talked about chess in a way where I would be talking about weak squares when I was like a master, when I was like 15 or 16. It just wasn't, I was good at tactics and stuff, but like I still wasn't like great at like verbalizing stuff like that.
Yeah. And the J-Deep, the quote I read from IM Shahade in the recap of Reassess Your Chess, he talked about what a formative book this was for him, and he talked about how he utilized it, and he basically made it sound like he basically sat there and looked at the list and, then would think about a position, and then would look at the list and think about a position, basically like you have a checklist. And based on what you're saying, Greg, it does sound like that might be, in a training environment, not a bad idea to help internalize these ideas.
And at some point it just becomes an automatic process.
Yeah, and Sagar, like, in that quote, I mean, he said it took him a lot of work. Like
that's how it is. Yeah, I mean, like think about when you shoot a free throw, right? There's probably all these like little minute steps you go through, like with your shooting form and how you're supposed to stand. I don't know, and you have to think about them a lot at first, but then it just becomes automatic eventually.
Yeah. Okay, good stuff. All right, another question from Mark Ebersabal. Is chess a sport?
I would say no.
Okay.
Do I mean, I just don't, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a sport
personally, it's not an issue that animates me, I have to say.
Yeah, I also don't buy these calorie, these articles about how many calories are burning.
That cannot be right. Yeah. There's this big got a lot of play ESPN article about how many calories, just for anyone who didn't see it listening, how many calories elite chess players burn, and they were saying like it was like the equivalent of running 7 miles or something, like playing a tournament chess game. I've seen many overweight chess players. So
well, I mean, you can be overweight running, but it's not about that. I don't know. I just don't buy it.
Yeah.
I just don't. I mean, it's just hard to believe.
Yeah. I'm not a scientist, maybe someone out there.
I'm not a scientist too.
But this reporter wasn't a scientist either. And
exactly.
All right. I mean, I'll link to the article. People can form their own conclusions. Everyone who disagrees with my dismissal, feel free to drop me a line. All right. Now, Greg, you had a stipulation when you come on the show that you'll be able to talk about whatever nonsense you want, which we'll get to in a second, although we're running long. But
you gotta ask me. Okay, go on.
Oh, you want me to ask you nonsense questions?
Well, I don't know. I mean, all right, anyway, continue.
Okay. Well, first of all, we have a couple questions from Vyacheslav Nemec, who I believe you know.
Oh, Vyacheslav. Yeah, of course. The manager of the new Croatia Pro Chess League team.
Yes, he works hard, I know, managing that and reading a lot of books, as it turns out. He had a really good post of all the books he read last year, chess and otherwise, quite impressive. So Vieko asks the $1 million question.
Oh, boy. I don't know what's going to be, but I'm excited.
What exactly does Greg do for a living?
I don't know. All right, honest truth?
Uh-huh.
Well, right now, okay. So, how do I put this in the most simple terms? I'm like kind of retired. I mean, I do still make money. Like I worked chess.com, running the Pro Chess League. I run the U.S. Chess School. Do I get money from other things? Yeah, a little bit. But like,
get money from other things?
Okay, I'm going to tell you my philosophy on money. All right. So like, I used to play poker, and I used to play like 2-3 hours of poker a day.
Right.
And I was doing really well. I was doing good at poker. I made a lot of money. And at some point, like, you look at how much money you have, and you ask yourself, do I need more? And my threshold for how much I need is like a lot lower than most people's, because I didn't really plan on having children, and I don't like to wait. I don't drink. I don't like waste too much money. Although lately, maybe a little bit more. But I'm not like, I really value my free time and just ability to like just do stuff and not have to worry about making more and more money, right? So at some point, I had this certain amount of money, right? And then I asked myself the key question: what would happen if I lost half that money overnight? Would it affect my lifestyle? And I was thinking, it was like basically the answer was no. Like maybe a little bit. I would just feel like a little less stable, but I would still kind of do the same things that I would do every day, and I would not have to like kind of like resist doing certain things. So I feel like once that's an answer, like once losing half your money is like not a big deal, suddenly you probably shouldn't be working very much. And then you get in the situation where like you have money invested and it just happens to go up, right? Like, because the market's been doing pretty well over the last, like 10 years, I guess.
Yeah. So to be specific, you put a lot of your money just in like Vanguard funds, basically, right? Like index funds.
Yeah. And then like there was an event that happened that caused my amount of money, which was already like pretty high, it went up by like 50%. And so then at that point, it's just like, okay, I mean, I still make money. Like I still do get like some amount of money from like actual, like, I don't know, work, I guess you would call it. Like, running the Pro Chess League is work, but it's like a passion of mine. So sometimes it doesn't feel like work. And like when I teach at U.S. Chess School camp, I mean, it's technically work, but it's
and you run the program too. I mean,
yeah, I get almost nothing for running the program. But when I do coach a camp, I do pay myself like an instructor's fee. But like, is that really? I mean, it is work, but it's like what I love to do more than anything in the world. So it just doesn't feel like work exactly. But for the most part, I just don't worry about money because I know that even if I lost a large amount of it, I'd be fine.
Okay, so there you have it. You work some, and you're drawing down your savings a bit, basically.
But I'm not, because things keep going up. Like house values go up. Like at some point, some catastrophic thing could happen where like the market crashes and everything crashes, and I lose half my net worth, and then it's like a little different, my situation. But like I've managed to not work really much for like the last 10 years, and the market's been going up enough that it hasn't mattered.
There's probably a lot of people listening now who hate you even more now, Greg. But...
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But I think it's a decision. Like, okay, some people have the decision. Some very select people could make the decision not to work as much, but they don't kind of see it as an option. I understand, though. It's a very privileged place to be.
Okay. Well,
and the last thing is Lawrence Trent just keeps donating me money. And that's nice. Every few months I get the Trent donation.
That's very funny. And that ties into Vieko's second question, which is if there will be another grudge match against Lawrence Trent, and how do you feel about failing to adopt him twice already?
Failing to adopt him? What's that mean, like winning every game?
I think it's 10 in a row or something. I know it's in the internet vernacular, but I'm not 100%.
All right, first of all, think about this. If I'm beating this guy 10-0, do you think he's going to come back and want to play me again? And give me more money, like fund more of my international vacations? Think about that. Remember the last match, he had a serious early lead on me. Like, there's a match to 12 or something. He was up like 6-4 or something like that. I really thought I was going to lose. I thought he had my number that day. And then he lost some game that was just like, oh, amazing. It's just amazing. I don't know how he lost it.
I have to admit, I feel uncomfortable whenever you guys talk trash about each other. It always feels like, Magnus and Anish Giri have their like top level trash talking. Yeah. And it doesn't feel as personal somehow.
Yeah, because they're best friends.
Yeah, I think they secretly are. And it makes me cringe a little bit when you guys, because I've never met Lawrence personally. He was on Perpetual Chess a long time ago. Seems to be a good, fun ambassador for chess. Strong chess player. And then like Simon Williams. Well, I have met Simon Williams.
I dispute the strong chess player.
And they seem to really dislike you, and it bothers me because because you're actually a nice guy, but you can be very obnoxious online. So,
I mean, I'm obnoxious. They're obnoxious. Like I'm sitting here playing Lawrence Trent, and Simon won't shut up. I don't know why I haven't played a match against him yet.
See, this makes me uncomfortable.
I'm sorry.
You should play a match against Simon though. That would be fun. I mean, if you kept it,
Here's the problem though. I mean, Simon already played Lawrence in a match, and Lawrence won. So
okay, but it's not like you crushed Lawrence. Like you narrowly beat him.
Well, I mean, okay, narrowly beat him is a strong word, but I admit that like I could have won by more. Like it's possible to have beaten him by more. Listen, I admit Simon's a really interesting chess player. He plays like this really fun style chess, really inspirational. I'm not going to take that away from him. You got to give him props, right? But I don't know why every single time I play Lawrence, he wants to put some giant side bet against me. Like,
yeah,
doesn't seem wise in retrospect.
Yes.
Did you bet on me against him? Or was that somebody else?
Whenever I have an opportunity, yeah, I do. Okay. I've just learned to, as I've said online, never bet against a Shahade. If you or Jen are betting on something, you tend to be pretty good at handicapping things. So, and it's not, I was saying to Hungaski, like, if you played Hikaru in a Blitz match, you're not going to be putting up thousands of dollars of your own money,
Oh, do you want to hear, though, about my betting against Hikaru match?
Yes.
So I gambled. I beat Hikaru in the psychological mind games.
This is like how many years? Because how many years ago was this?
Long time ago.
Okay.
I was like, it was the U.S. Open in Phoenix. He definitely wasn't 20 yet, but he was already the best Blitz player in the country, I think. I didn't know it yet. I didn't know how good he was. But like we're at the Skittles room. It's maybe like 2004 or something. I don't know, 15 years ago. Maybe a little more recent than that. And he wants to play me in Blitz. And so I'm like, okay, let's play like 3-minute chess, $5 a game. And I'm just playing because I'm happy to play such a great player and donate $5 every game. It was either $5 or $10, I think. But you know what he then said as a response? He was like, well, how about I give you 3-1 time odds? And then you know what I said? I was like, okay, but then let's play $100 a game. And then he backed down. He would have probably crushed me. Because he beat me so bad in 3. He beat me, I think, like 12-1 or something.
Wow.
And I'm good. Like, I mean, okay, we know how good Hikaru is now, but like, I didn't realize he was that good. Like, there was not many people who are just going to trash me like that. Now there's so many like amazing Blitz players that it's not so unbelievable. But
also, I feel like and ICC existed then, but it's more quantifiable with all the online sites. Looks like that U.S. Open was in 2005.
That sounds about right. Yeah, and like I felt good though that I got him to back down because I was ready to play him for $100 a game.
But I thought the story was going to be you actually beat him.
God.
Oh, okay.
I got him scared. He wouldn't put the money up. He was like, "Oh, sorry, 3-1. No thanks."
Okay.
But I do think he would have been a favorite against me in 3-1 in retrospect. Before that, I actually thought I was a favorite when I had said $100 because he was going to give me 3-1, but I think he could have done it.
Yeah, and your financial situations might have been differently. It might have.
No, he was scared. Let's just say he was scared.
All right. All right, Greg. So we're out of listener questions. I know you wanted to talk some nonsense. So do you have any pop culture recommendations? Wait, you got something burning to say?
No, I don't like how Jan Gustafsson comes on the show and gets to talk about nonsense all the time. Like,
listen,
why
I mean, there's no
You-
documented video of you beating Jan. So, he's big time. He can talk about whatever he wants, but
you direct the nonsense with him. Like, do you have questions about the nonsense? Like,
well, it tends to be the same nonsense. For one thing, he listens to podcasts, which you don't, which is very on brand here for a podcast. But
right.
I mean, comedy stuff, movies, Netflix,
So what does this mean? What am I? Give me some help here. Lead me towards the nonsense.
What is the best TV show you've watched in the past 2 years?
2 years? Come on. Okay, we all know The Wire is the best show ever, right?
Okay, we're not breaking any ground there.
Boom. In the last 2 years. Now, somebody busy like me, I don't have that much time for TV, of course.
Okay.
I have seen some really good shows, though. I'm just forgetting all of them. You know what I really liked? I'm not as good as Jan at this. I like
He's
Humans.
very good.
I like the show Humans. It's very nice. Nice
I don't
show.
know that show. All right, I can ask you about something insane that you said on Twitter once.
Yeah, it's good. Do it.
You were lamenting the fact that you couldn't watch Parks and Rec on your phone in the shower.
Not Parks and Rec. It was 99, Brooklyn 99.
Oh yeah, okay, that could be Brooklyn. Whatever it's called, the cop show. So you went to Twitter for tips, and you ended up. This could be TMI. I apologize, listeners, but you ended up taking your phone in a Ziploc bag so that you could watch. What's that? What is the exact name of that show? Is it Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
I don't know. I stopped watching it shortly thereafter.
That's funny. So that you could watch it in the shower.
Well, yeah, that's what happened. I bet. You just put your phone in the Ziploc, and that way, while you're showering, you can watch something.
It is Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but it's good for the brain to rest, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
You're a big CrossFit guy. Interval training.
Sleep 8 hours a day.
Okay, that's not enough. That alone is not enough.
I had a 1 or 2 week phase where I watched stuff in the shower. I no longer do that.
Okay.
But here's the problem. I would start watching something and I would be like, I need to shower, but I'm like watching this thing and it would distract me from showering. Uh-huh. But then once I got the Ziploc bag thing down, I can then go into the shower, continue to watch the thing and get done, finish the showering.
We've got to change the subject. This is just too disturbing. All right, have you read any chess books in the past 2 years?
Oh God, I'm the worst. Well, Jan never probably reads chess books, right?
He admitted that.
So have I, I'll glance at something, but I not going to read it from cover to cover. I saw something, I was reading something in my house the other day. I felt very refined. It was this book written by Mikhail Tal on his match win against Botvinnik. So I was reading all his notes and I was like, wow.
1960, yeah.
Yeah, I just felt like this kind of like Renaissance man, like reading this historic chess match from Mikhail Tal's point of view. It was interesting. It's interesting to see how they approach stuff.
And when we were kids, when you were getting better, mm-hmm. I mean, I know when Inside Chess and New in Chess would come.
Inside Chess.
An exciting event in your family.
Inside Chess, such an amazing magazine.
It really was good. Shouts to John Donaldson and Yasser Serouan. But you guys, what was your general approach to reading books? I mean, you were in the unique position of having your dad be like a great player and coach, but
yeah, it was useful. As a kid, we did a lot of tactics books. Like that was the main thing, which was just drill tactics constantly.
Yeah, now you guys were ahead of the curve on that.
Yeah, I think that's why it helped me to get good. I would just read chess books. I would just kind of glance through them and read stuff. I learned some stuff from osmosis.
Yeah. And you read opening books for sure. That's my recollection. Like
totally.
Grunfeld and all that.
Well, I mean, maybe I told this story before, but one time when I was 14, I was at chess camp and I was not quite a master yet. I was 2080. This guy Vivek Rao was coaching me, and I was showing him some game I played in Dragon. He was like, "What would you do if I went here?" And I was like, "I don't know." He was like, "What do you mean you don't know? This is the mainline theory." I was like, "I don't know." It's and he was just very blunt. He was like, "If you don't know this, you can't get any good. This is unacceptable. You have to know your openings better." And I went home and studied openings hard, got master a few months later. So that was the first time I studied openings hard. I got a notebook I went to the book. I kind of pinpointed what the most important lines were and everything. I wrote them down. I memorized them. I had never quite done that on my own. This was self-motivated pretty much. So like, it wasn't like anyone making me do it. It was just like I had this strong player telling me this is what I need to do to get better. And so in the past, I've talked to players like that before too, hoping it would kind of like wake them up. Like, not kind of like, I knew he knew I was decent, but like, I would tell players like, if you don't learn your openings better, you're just only so much you can do,
So at what level does that like mainly become an issue?
I think 2,000 to 2,200. Like there's a bunch of players around that level where there's just giant holes in their openings for some reason. Some players know their openings well at that level, but there's some that are just kind of like, they play mainline stuff and they just don't know something that I know, even though I don't even play their opening. And I'm just like, yeah, you can't not know this. It's just, you're limited in how good you can get if you don't know this. And it's also a bad sign because it shows they don't take chess studying very seriously. So it's like, that's the thing.
Okay, good advice. Although anyone listening who's like, I don't know, I feel like my personal opinion, 1,800-ish is a gray area, 1,800-ish to 2,000. But below that, I don't think it's that important.
Totally. I was playing the Dragon, So if you play the Dragon, it is important. But if you play like the London system for white or like the French, there's certain openings like you can get away with not knowing openings as much. And I think it's nice to play openings that you don't have to know too much. Especially in today's day and age with all the computers and stuff, it's just like, it just wastes so much time when you have to play these sharp openings. But I'm not sure that's correct. But it is a huge time sink, like playing the sharp openings these days,
Yeah, it's relentless. All right, Greg, I think we're done.
All right, I feel like I didn't do enough random talk, but what am
I mean, but we're 95 minutes in.
No, I know. I mean, what can I do? I need to listen to Jan and prepare and like really study his work.
He's one of a kind. You got your work cut out for you. All right, well, so Pro Chess League, January 6th. Tune in. Support professional chess, entertaining matchups, Hikaru and Fabiano and, Wesley So many great players, Anish Giri, young phenom, Ali Firouzja, should be fun.
On Monday, I think we have 6, if not 7, 2,700 players playing on the same day. Maybe
amazing. 8. Yeah, so good stuff. 3 days a week, lots of entertainment. I apologize for any facts I've gotten wrong about Alekseenko and nutrition and how many calories you burn in chess. But
Aleksenko's the best. He's going to do great.
He'll be
He's
fine.
a good player.
Yeah.
By the way, before we end, like I think all these players are great. Like Giri, like obviously great player. I love his personality. I love everything about him. I was just saying it surprised me that I just didn't realize he was that high rated because you feel like he just doesn't he kind of doesn't win things, but like obviously he's outrageously good at chess.
Yeah, I mean, and it's because he's always playing the best players in the world. It's hard to win this.
If I always played the best players in the world, I wouldn't do that well. I gotta be honest.
Okay, well, that's a good note to end on, Greg. What
Giri is the best.
So are you still doing the Instagram in addition to Twitter and Facebook?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'm a little less active on social media these days, but I'm still around. Okay,
people can track you down. All right, Greg. Well, thanks as always, and good luck with the upcoming season. I'm sure we'll check in with some Pro Chess League participant during the course of it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again. I can't wait till next year.
All right, we're gonna work hard on the pop culture talk before our next conversation.
Whole show pop culture.
They'll love it. Yeah. All right. Thanks as always to my producer Matthew Passy for making Perpetual Chess happen. I also want to thank all you guys and girls who helped me grow Perpetual Chess. That includes everyone who tells a friend about the show, everyone who writes a positive review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, whatever other podcast platform you may be on. All of it is appreciated and all of it keeps me going. But of course, most of all, I want to thank the people who provide financial support to the show. I would like to give extra special thanks to the following people and entities. They are Chessable Quality Chess Books, the Capital City Chess Club, the Apprentice Twitch channel, Andrew Bach, Austin Clough, Benjamin Porto, Kathy Carr, Chad Oliver, Dano Hanlon, Danny Davidson, David Schreiber, I am Dimitri Schneider, Faraz Sawaf, Gary Foreman, Greg Nattel, Greg Shahade, Guven Manet, Jens Green, John Jernigan, John Cromarty, John McCarthy, Kelly Palmer, Kevin O'Callaghan, Lone Pine Chess, Lorraine Dore, Lucio Casada Silva, the law offices of Stuart Katz, Michael Kahn, FM Michael Oplin, Mike Zelazny, Moonmaster 9000, Peter Sodi, Reuven Fisher, Seattle Chess Club, Thomas Stanix, Thomas Tachenko, Todd Bryant of Strong Chess, and Todd Kennedy. And I would also like to thank the following people and entities. They are Aaron Waffler, Ace Vallega, Adam Ralph of ChessEngland.com, Adrian Gutierrez, Alex Pejas, FM Andre Terakov, Andrew Perry, Better Chess Training, Bill Juniper, Bill Moran, Brad and Andy Rosen, Brett Howard Lynn, Brian Mullish, Chad Hilton, Dr. Charles Snodgrass, Chris Flanagan, Chris Wainscott, Christopher Baumgartner, Christopher Chabris, Chris Lott, Christopher Wood. I am Christoph Zalecki, aka Chess Explained, Coach J's Chess Academy, Courtney Fry, Daniel Gell, Daniel Ginsberg, Daniel Lucas of U.S. Chess Federation, Daniel Naylor, Dave Saylor, David Cramley, CEO of Chessable.com, Dalen Shelton, Dwayne Edmonds, Ethan Smith. I am Elect Donnie Ariel, the Fox Valley Chess Club of Aurora, Illinois, Dr. Frank Tortoris, Gary Andrews, Gary Lewis, Geert Vandervelt, Gerard Barta, Giovanni Russo, Hans Schut, Harish Srinivasan, James Aspinwall, James Benastia, James Moore, Jason Anfang, Jason Woolham, J. Deep Chakrabarty, Jeff Anderson, Jeffrey Martello, Jerry Wells, J.J. Stranad, John Fernandez, John Fontaine, John Hartman, John Jeffrey, John McMurtry, Jordan Goodwin, Jose Rodriguez, Justin Gardner, Jen Shahade, Joel Rocky, John Thompson, GM Josh Friedel, I am Kare Christensen, WGM Katerina Nemtsova, Kelly Palmer, I am Kostya Kovutsky, Krishna Kapala Krishnan, Larry Ryforth, Laura Belyavsky, Martin Knudsen, Matthew Passy, Matthew Tedesco of SeattleChessMeetup.org, the Mechanics Institute Chess Club of San Francisco, Michael Allard, Miguel Arospidi, Mike Clem, Mr. Mike Shahade, Nate Salon, Neil Bruce, Olaf Mueller-Michaels, GM Pascal Charbonneau, Passy Passanen, Paul Bain, Paul Clarkson, Paul Sweeney, Paulo Santana, Peter Lux, Peter Merrifield, Randy Temple, Ricky Grahalver, Roy Yearwood, Ryan Berg, the Say Chess YouTube channel, Scott Doherty, Scott McKinnon, Sebastian Finsterwalder, WGM, Tatya Vabrahamian, Tim Brennan of TacticsTime.com, Tim Seymour, Timothy Ha, Tom Edsel, Tomas Komarnich, Tony Rotella, Tyrin Price, Victor Vrankulj, Wayne Beam, William Brock, William Juniper, William Peterson, FM Zhao Cheng of Chess1000.com, Zhivko Storyanov, and that is everyone. Thanks, everyone. Catch you guys next week.